All right, hey everybody. So I got a weird one for you. This customer's been to a couple other shops for misfires, and yeah, of course, the last place you would go to is a dealership, right? But I've had this happen before, where you get all these random misfires, and it's due to a aftermarket drive belt. Either it's too long, right? It's too long, or your tensioner is not putting enough tension on it. So what happens is, how your PCM detects misfires, the speeding up and slowing of the crank. So as you bring up it's fine during idle, but when you bring the RPMs up, it starts misfiring, and it's because it's detecting the speeding and slowing down of the crank, whichever cylinder is misfiring. Then it starts shutting off injectors, and you get that flashing check engine light. So that was the issue with this. I think I remember one time it happened on a K-series motor. I think it was an older Civic Si, but not just a Civic Si, also your 1.8 liter Civic. This one's also a manual. So if you have already checked your spark plugs, ignition coils, injectors, your regular spark, fuel, compression, timing, and air, and they're all good, maybe check your drive belt. Maybe it's too long. Someone put an aftermarket one in there, and it's causing your PCM to detect a misfire or a false misfire. And once it detects as a false misfire, it starts on the Hondas. It shuts off the injectors, the ones that it thinks it's misfiring, to protect the cat, and you get that flashing check engine light. So this is what happens with this one. So after that, we just put in an OEM drive belt in this car, and the misfire on live data completely went away. And of course, the customer was saying after replacing the drive belt, it's been running rough ever since. So yeah, I hope that helps. This is a weird one. It only happened one other time. Usually you see the tensioner go back and forth. All right, so I felt like I didn't do a well enough job explaining this, or showing like a before and after. But this was also not my work order. I was just helping a coworker out. Just because I've experienced this one other time, and I think it was like 8 years ago. It was a Civic Si 8th gen K-series motor, and it was an OEM drive belt that has stretched pretty far. Just because you're on your tensioner, there are indicators on how far your belt has stretched, just to tell you when they need to be replaced. But Honda belts, they don't usually crack. They can go like 200,000 kilometers, and you won't see any cracks on the belt, but they do stretch. So when you bring your car to a Honda dealership, we change your belt around 80 to 100,000 kilometers. Even though if they're not cracked, they also stretch. So some customers are like, I want to see that belt, and yeah, we show them there's no cracks, but your belts do stretch, and this is one of the causes for this issue. So the customer's complaint is, around 2,000 RPM, say you're cruising on the highway, it starts running rough, and the check engine light starts flashing. This is because your aftermarket belt is too long, your OEM belt has stretched too much, or if your belt tensioner is not putting enough tension on that belt, or the tensioner has lost its tension. So I feel like it's only on the manuals. On the automatics, it has a torque converter that helps dampen those power pulses. But usually on the automatics, the customer's complaint is a rattling noise on the passenger side, which is because that belt tensioner is rattling back and forth because it's not putting enough tension on that belt, either because of the belt's too long or couple issues. But yeah, so what happens is when your belt is slipping, how your PCM detects a misfire is the speeding up and slowing down of that crankshaft. So when that belt is slipping, it's speeding up and slowing down that crank, and the PCM detects it as a misfire. And on the Hondas, when it detects a misfire, it'll start shutting off injectors on those cylinders that are misfiring to help protect the cat. So yeah, so this is what was happening. So if you are having trouble figuring out your misfire and you're pulling your hair out, because you check your spark, you check your fuel, you check your compression, and you also check timing, and also the engine also has to breathe too, right? So if and you checked all that and it's all good and it's still misfiring right when you hold the RPMs up around 2000, and you just wait for a little bit and it starts stumbling and runs rough and you're checking it, starts flashing, check the belt, because either it's an aftermarket belt, the belt's stretched, or your OEM belt stretched, or your tensioner has lost its tension. And this is what's causing this false misfire and the PCM to shut off the injectors and stuff. So yeah, anyways, this customer has brought it to a couple other shops and they couldn't figure it out. I think they threw some parts at it and still didn't fix it. And of course, last place you would bring it to is the dealership. And of course, I've experienced this one other time, and this helped with my coworker's diagnosis. And yeah, all it did was I told him to take the belt off, check live data while you're running it, do the same thing, see if it still misfires, and the misfires went away. So I told him to put an OEM belt in it and see if it still misfires. Put a new belt in, put a new OEM belt into it, check live data again, still no more misfires, and it was good to go. And all it needed was a OEM drive belt and not the aftermarket one that was too long. And yeah, I hope that helps. Some of you are pulling your hair out trying to figure it out. Hope this video helps. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.